You know, in an age of self-driving cars and smart everything, you'd think a giant multi-million-dollar ship loaded with the best tech in the world couldn't possibly crash, right? I mean, it seems impossible that one could just run aground or hit another ship. And yet, it keeps happening. So today, we're going to unravel this high-tech mystery.
And this really is the central question, isn't it? If you've got all this incredible advanced navigation equipment on the bridge, why are we still seeing these kinds of preventable accidents? It just doesn't add up. Well, the answer is both simpler and way more complicated than you'd imagine.
To get to the bottom of this, we first have to meet the main character in our story. This is the piece of technology that was supposed to make these kinds of accidents a thing of the past.
Meet the ECDIS. Now, most people see the electronic chart part and just think, oh, it's a big GPS for a ship. But that's missing the most important part. See the IS at the end? That stands for Information System, and that is the absolute key here. This thing isn't just a map, it's a whole digital ecosystem of data, all designed to keep the ship safe.
So what feeds this system? That would be the ENC, the Electronic Navigational Chart. So think of it this way. If the ECDIS is the brain of the operation, the ENC is its heart. It's the official database, pumping all of that vital, verified chart information directly into the system.
As maritime expert Captain Crewvn puts it, when you're on the bridge, you should think of the ECDS as your most diligent pilot. I mean, it's always on, constantly checking, warning you about dangers. It gives you a level of awareness that you could just never get from old paper charts. When it's used correctly, it's amazing. But that little phrase, when used correctly, that's where our whole mystery takes a really sharp turn.
Because here's the twist. The problem isn't the technology. When investigators look into these modern accidents, they all keep pointing their finger at the exact same thing, the human element.
The real causes here aren't system failures or glitches. Nope. It's a lack of skill in actually operating the system. It's a shocking lack of knowledge about what all the features even do, and ultimately, it's a failure by the crew to take the proper safety actions. The tool is incredibly sharp, but the person holding it just hasn't been trained to use it.
And this leads to a pretty chilling conclusion from Captain Crewvn. He says, having a modern ECDIS on board without knowing how to use it is actually more dangerous than not having one at all. Think about that for a second. It creates this false sense of security, this digital blanket that hides a really deep and dangerous level of incompetence.
So, if a lack of training is the problem, what on earth is the solution? Well, it's actually pretty elegant, and the best way to understand it is to think about something we all know, learning to drive a car. The solution is a two-tiered or two-part training system, and it's all built on one really simple but totally critical idea. It's not enough to know how these systems work in general. You have to be an expert on the specific model that's sitting right there in front of you.
And this analogy just explains it perfectly. Generic training, that's like getting your driver's license. You learn the rules of the road, how to brake, how to steer, the basics that apply to any car you get into. But type-specific training? That's like learning the dashboard of your car, knowing exactly where the hazard button is on a Mercedes versus where it is on a Toyota. You absolutely have to have both to be a safe, competent driver.
And this isn't just a good idea, okay? It's absolutely essential. The generic training is the mandatory foundation for every officer. But that type-specific training is what makes them truly proficient on the machine they use for hours every single day. And make no mistake, Port State Control inspectors can, and they will, come on board your ship and ask an officer to perform a specific task on their specific ECDIS. And you do not want to be the one who can't do it.
So what does it look like when an officer has both types of training? Well, it looks like true mastery. It's the difference between just using a tool and being in complete command of it.
This is really the path to proficiency. A truly skilled officer doesn't just glance at the screen to see where the ship is. No, they have mastered the menu structure. They know how to configure all the safety settings perfectly. They understand what every single alarm means. They can plan and check routes with incredible skill. And they even know how to manage all the boring stuff, like backups and licenses. And this is the real payoff. When an officer achieves that level of skill, the exact same piece of technology that was a danger in untrained hands completely transforms. It becomes the powerful, reliable safeguard it was always meant to be, protecting the ship, the crew, and all the cargo on board.
You know, this whole situation leaves us with a much bigger question, one that goes way beyond the bridge of a ship. In our rush to make all of our technology so powerful and yet so simple to use, At what point does user-friendly cross a line and become dangerously oversimplified? When does it fool us into thinking we're experts, when we've actually forgotten the essential skills we need for when things go wrong? It's definitely something to think about.